Hello and welcome back. Now I'm recording this Wednesday night, so the Four Nations final hasn't happened yet, and as an American, I'm hedging with this thumbnail. Either Canada wins and I look smart, or I jinx them and Team USA wins what may go down as one of the best international hockey games ever, if last Saturday night is any indication. So hopefully there's a good outcome. Either way, we've seen some brilliance, especially from Sidney Crosby himself. I have to admit that as a USA fan, it's been a treat to watch him and this entire tournament unfold, but with the end of this tournament comes the shift of focus back to fantasy hockey. So let's do what we always do and check out the schedule for week 19. Now there's definitely a little bit of a quirk here. We've got an additional 2 days with this week. You've got the Saturday with 14 games, Sunday with 10. There are some teams with back-to-backs. There's a couple here, and we'll go through the rest of the schedule as we move forward. But Monday's a light night with 2 games, Wednesday's a light night with 3, Friday with 3, and Sunday is relatively light with 6 games. So what we're going to focus on are the teams with the most light nights, and then the teams at the bottom here have some of the most games total. So the LA Kings and Winnipeg Jets are arguably your best schedules this week. What you have here is a nice setup with some, no back-to-backs in the front half of this week. You've got Utah, Vegas, Vancouver, and these are all relatively spread out. So they, players coming back from the Four Nations don't have to worry about getting back and then playing a back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday. That might help you if you're in your fantasy league and you're looking to pick somebody up. And then they do have this back-to-back Friday, Saturday, so we will see Riddick in net for at least one of these. You've got Winnipeg, the same type of thing. They've got Hellebuck, so you will probably see Eric Comrie this week, maybe against San Jose and maybe against Nashville. They do have this back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday, but everything else is really nicely spaced out. And both of these teams allow you to pick somebody up on that Sunday. So if you use an ad for either the Kings or the Jets, you could potentially run with 5 games this week, 3 light nights for the Kings, and then 5 games with a couple of light nights for Winnipeg, and then you add that Sunday ad if you still have it in the bank. You have 6 game weeks from Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Nashville, but all of these are very difficult schedules. You can see the strength of schedule maybe favoring Pittsburgh a little bit. You've got Washington, which is not a slouch at all, the division leading Washington Caps. You've got the Rangers, who are playing better again. At least these are home games in terms of a back-to-back for Pittsburgh. Then they've got 4-point games basically every one of these. They've got the Rangers, that's a 4-point game. Same with Philly. They've got Boston, who they're probably trying to chase in the playoff push, and then they've got this back-to-back against Toronto. So that's not going to be easy. You look at St. Louis, it's not easy for them. Winnipeg and Colorado back-to-back to start the week. They've got Seattle, which is a little bit more winnable for them. They're below 500, but then they come back on the road against Washington, and then they've got a back-to-back with travel towards the back end of the week. You've got Nashville with a lot of the same, Colorado, Jersey. They've got the defending Cup champs on that heavy Tuesday. They've got the, arguably one of the best teams in the league, one of the best in the Central Division in Winnipeg on Thursday, and then a road back-to-back in New York. So, and the Isles have been playing much better. The Rangers are playing much better. That's not going to be easy either, and they've struggled all year to put wins together. Lastly, you have Minnesota. They've got some space here. They've got home and home with Detroit, but with a couple of days in between. Then they've got a road back-to-back at Utah and at Colorado, and then on that Sunday they do play Boston. So a lot of spread out stuff, but there are some options available. We'll go into a couple of these teams in detail, and then I'll give you some ads from the rest of them. With all of that said, Ottawa 3-game week, they are the lowest game count for this extended week, so beware of that if you own Brady Tkachuk or any of those, Stützle, any of those high-level Ottawa Senators. You're going to want to grab something off the waiver wire. Now, as we turn and look at the best schedules this week, we'll start with the LA Kings and their animated graph. This is what it looks like to start the season. You can see Fiala started pretty hot, comes back down to earth. Kempe starts to rise, and he's been their best player basically since mid-November, and that's to be expected. He's a shot volume guy, a lot of goal scoring from him. You can see Fiala rising. Second half Kevin Fiala is here officially. If you go back maybe a month, that's when Fiala started to heat up. You've got Laferriere, who's a really consistent option because of his hitting and his offensive play. And then you've got a huge cluster in here, which we'll get to on the next slide. So we'll start it off with Quinton Byfield, 3-position eligible, 38% owned. He's relatively hot, 8 points, 6 assists in his last 10 games. He's line 2, power play 2. You can see him trending up basically from the new year onward, and he gets hot and cold. So when he is hot, that is helpful. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to keep these trends going after this long extended break, but he will be fresh along with a lot of these other guys. So that is worth noting as well. That 3-position eligibility is going to help you get them into your lineup on those heavier nights. And then you still have the option for that Sunday ad with any of these players. But Byfield is getting decent line assignment exposure on line 2 and power play 2. But if you want a little bit of a different look, you could also go Phil Deneau. If you're in a deeper league, you got Phil Deneau at 7% ownership, single position center, and he was hot coming into the break as well. You have a goal, 4 assists, 5 points in his last 4 games. He has been a little bit off this year compared to years past in terms of what he can provide. He does get you some face-off wins if you're in a league with face-off wins. Line 3 is not great. Power play 2 is okay. The assist numbers are good, 88th percentile there, and he does hit a little bit. He's been slowly trending up and then kind of took this jump here with this 5 points in the 4-game streak before the break. So this is a deeper league target for you. You could go Trevor Moore. He's been a little bit cold this year as well. Usually more of a shot volume guy, but this is kind of that middle 6 segment of their lineup where you can potentially find some fantasy value. You also have Laferriere, who's probably your best ad this week. He's the most complete player on this list. 1 goal, 1 assist, nothing crazy there, but 20 shots and 5 hits in his last 4 games. So tons of shot volume over the last 4, and then a bunch of hits as well. He gets 1.73 hits per game on average, 90th percentile in terms of shot volume. He does get power play 1 exposure occasionally. So he's on power play 1 now, line 2 with Byfield. And so this is a potential for, a play. He gets hot and cold similarly to Byfield and Deneau. It's hard to tell how they're going to react after the break, but he's been really consistent for peripheral coverage, at least for shots and hits. So in a points league where you get extra weighting for those, this is going to be a nice ad for this week. The point ceiling is a little bit low. Goal totals are pretty decent at 85th percentile. But you do have to factor all of that in. He's single position right wing. So on those heavier nights, maybe Byfield would be the better ad. That's why he's at the top here. Worth noting, you also have Drew Doughty at 64% ownership. He should be a little bit higher than that, and he's probably getting his game back in order with the Four Nations face-off with the intensity. He said it was Saturday night was one of the fastest games he's ever played in. And that's probably because he's coming back off of an injury. So if he's available, he's on the first pair. He's on the top power play unit. Go out and grab Drew Doughty. If you're looking for hits and blocks, you have Edmondson and Anderson for hits and blocks. Edmondson, 1.53 for both. For Anderson, you've got 1.39 hits and 1.69 blocks. But we do have a couple of other options later in the video, which we'll get to as we move along. That's going to do it for the Kings ads. Let's now turn and take a look at some Winnipeg Jets by looking at their animated graph. And here's what you would expect from them. Kyle Connor jumping off to the races to start the year. Everybody kind of regressed a little bit. They did have a little bit of a shaky late October, early November, but they picked it back up lately. Kyle Connor leading the way at the top. You've got Ehlers and Scheifele up here. Cheeberkoff is a small sample size play. And then you've got this massive cluster here. So Velarde, Morrissey, Pionk, Niederreiter, Perfetti, Lowry, and Nemesnikov. Last I checked, Lowry's still out. I'm not sure how that will fare over the weekend. Pionk and Morrissey are usually owned up. You could go Niederreiter. He's not quite as hot as some of the other guys. So let's turn it into the player hub and take a look at some options from Winnipeg. The hottest player heading into the break was Cole Perfetti. 9 points, 4 goals, 5 assists, and 4 power play points and 11 hits in his last 7 games. He was riding a 5-game point streak heading into the break with a goal, 5 assists, and 3 power play points right before the stoppage. So he was red hot. The break probably came at a bad time for him. He wanted to keep that going. But with all that, he is 88th percentile on the power play, getting 85th percentile in terms of assists, which is decent for power play 2. So occasionally they have used him over the past couple years on power play 1, but he is at least productive on power play 2 since that's where he's slotting in right now. He is also 3-position eligible, 28% ownership. So if you're looking for that positional flexibility this week, you can find it from him. You can also find it from Byfield. Of the two, Perfetti's a little bit hotter heading into the break, so we'll have to see how he bounces out of the break. But with all of that said, he's got a good line assignment, and he is, he's younger, so he's hot and cold, and right now he's hot heading back from the break. Then you've also got Vlad Nemesnikov. They're on the same line. This line is apparently Perfetti, Ehlers, Nemesnikov. That's their second line. Ehlers is power play 1, and he's owned up. So these are the other two guys you can get. Nemesnikov is your deeper league play. Center left wing, dual eligible. 9 points with 3 power play points in his last 9 games as well. Power play numbers are pretty similar to Perfetti. Assists are also pretty similar. He does get a little bit of hits volume, 1.13 hits per game. So similar to Perfetti. I think when Perfetti hits, he's more engaged in the game and seems to play a little bit better for fantasy. Same thing kind of goes with Nemesnikov, but he's relatively hot heading into the break, 9 points in 9 games. So each of these guys above a point per game. Ehlers also up there before the break. And it's worth noting that Winnipeg was riding an 8-game win streak themselves heading into the break. So with all of this said, these are the 2 best offensive ads. You also have a couple of defensive options for peripherals. You've got Dylan Samberg, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points in his last 6 with 11 blocks. So he's a block specialist, 92nd percentile, 1.71 blocks per game. But the offensive numbers have kind of come lately, and the ice time is there. He's well above 20 minutes per night every night, even though he's on the second pair. So with all of that, you're getting at least a decent amount of blocks with that ice time. The offense can come and go. Right now, it was there right before the break, and obviously Winnipeg was red hot. So if they can continue that out of the break, Samberg might benefit from that. He's your deep league ad at 2%. You also have Dylan DeMello at 9%. So he's attached at the hip to Josh Morrissey on that top pair, which is the main benefit of his file. Plus, he gets a little bit of hits coverage. So 1.7 hits, 1.14 blocks per game. You can see him trending up basically since mid-December. So that's beneficial. He did kind of tick back down over the past couple weeks here, or the past couple of data points on this trend. But a goal, 3 assists, 4 points in his last 9 is not terrible for a stay-at-home shutdown defenseman. 23 blocks in that span is pretty good as well. So you're getting a decent amount of peripherals out of these guys. We're not going to go into too much detail about the other teams because we have a lot to cover. So now we're going to take a look at the best of the rest. Now, the best of the rest is going to encapsulate all of the schedules that we looked at earlier in the video, because it's obviously not a great idea to look at trends heading out of the break. So we'll take a look at some of these best ads from the teams with 5 and 6 games with some light nights. Brian Rust is one of the best ads that you can find from Pittsburgh pretty much any time. If he's healthy, which he is supposed to be healthy heading into the weekend, he's one of your best ads, period. 20 goals on the season, 22 assists, 42 points, 10 power play points. He's 86th percentile there. The shot volume, 91st percentile. Goal coverage, 96th percentile. You can see 20 goals in 48 games. He's close to a 40-goal pace. If he can keep himself healthy at least, he has an opportunity to get at least 30, maybe 35 on the season. He's usually attached at the hip to Sidney Crosby. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to be healthy coming back. He missed the game before the Four Nations face-off, so hopefully he'll be back and ready to go after. But anytime you can find Brian Rust on the wire, you go and pick him up. Line 1, power play 1 is excellent exposure for him. Up next, you've got Dylan Holloway, who is red hot for this season at least. He's been kind of under the radar, just getting it done. And the one thing that I love about his file is his hits. 88th percentile, 2.21 hits per game. He does get some power play time. He's featured on power play 1 right now. 40 points in 56 games is a tad bit underwhelming, but for a young player coming into his own with all of these peripherals, you're getting really good value. 9 power play points, 128 shots, 124 hits on the season. Really consistent mid-80s percentiles across everything. And this is a file where you're going to get access to line 2 and top power play for a team that's not necessarily got a lot of depth. So they're going to have to ride their top guys. Holloway at 53% dual position eligibility. He'll probably be there for you in a shallow league, might be there for you in a 12-teamer. Up next, more of a hitting option from St. Louis. You've got Braden Shen. He's a little bit more ownable at 25%, same dual position eligibility, 3 assists, a power play point, 4 shots, but the 15 hits in his last 3 games is the main reason you'd grab him. 93rd percentile in hits. Shot volume is a little low. Everything else is relatively consistent in that 75 to 80 percentile range. And he is apparently a trade target for some teams. I hear that they've been getting calls on him. I don't know if he'll move. If he does, that's probably beneficial if you pick him up now. If you're just riding it for the week, you're going to get tons of hits volume, and you're going to get exposure on the top power play as well. So that's going to help you out no matter what league format you're in. So Braden Shen, 25% ownership is a decent option from St. Louis. As we turn to one of the other teams, we can take a look at Ryan O'Reilly. 36% owned is a little bit higher. Single position center is a little bit less desirable. However, you're getting a little bit better power play numbers, 89th percentile. He's top line and power play 1. 5 assists and 2 power play points in his last 3 games before the break. So he was relatively hot. And it's taken a long time for Nashville to find some scoring. Marchessault has been playing pretty well all season long, so you're getting exposure to him through Ryan O'Reilly. And then some of their depth players have woken up as well. You also have Tommy Novak at 1% ownership, single position center. He was really good last year, putting up, I think it was mid-50s points on the entire season. This year, it was a very slow start. You can see starting at a 41, dropped like a rock all the way down here to a 26. And then from around mid-December onward, he picked it up, had a little bit of a slide back down. And then from, I guess this is around mid-January up until early February, he took off like a rocket and has been scoring a ton of goals. 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points, 2 power play points in his last 9 games. That's why he's 80th percentile in goals, which is his main feature of his file. This is definitely a deep league play. I wouldn't necessarily trust it because of that line 3 power play 2 exposure. However, if you're in a deep league and you're looking for an option, Novak was picking it up right before the break, at least for the last month or so. So it's a little bit longer of a sample size than some of these other guys. And you can hopefully get some goal coverage if you're in a points league that weighs goals a little bit heavier. We have a couple more ads to talk about. Marco Rossi still going to benefit from Hartman being out, from Kaprizov being out. He's top line and power play 1. Production is relatively good. This is Luke Schen's, unfortunately. Let me see if I can have, I don't know if I have his queued up, but nonetheless, 7 points, 1 power play point in his last 10 games, line 1 and power play 1. And they have an excellent playoff schedule. So if you're looking for a longer term ad, Rossi and the Minnesota Wild have the best playoff schedule. So he could be a longer term hold for the entire rest of the season if you're looking for that. If you're looking for this week, he's definitely going to get you power play exposure and top line exposure to guys like Zuccarello. I don't know who they have up there on that line with him. Eriksson Ek coming back from the Four Nations tournament might get a little bit of load management, which could help Marco Rossi a little bit with his ice time. So this is a decent pickup at 41% ownership. Luke Schenn, while we're here, we'll just talk about him real quick. 99th percentile in hits, 3.7 hits per game. He had an 11-hit game the last game before the break. So obviously that's what you're getting out of him. Pretty much nothing else. You do get a couple of blocks, 1.28 blocks, 80th percentile there. But this is a hits play for sure in terms of Luke Schenn. But in terms of a forward for hits, you could also look at Trenin. He's got 2 goals, 11 shots, 17 hits in his last 4 games, 0% owned. So if you're looking for a Minnesota Wild forward because of their schedule, you could go out and find Trenin for his hits volume. He's, I believe, above 3 hits per game average as well. Not sure why these aren't showing up on the side here, but Trenin is another big hitter, and he might get elevated ice time with Hartman out of the lineup as well. So just something to put on your radar if you're in a deep league. Here's Zach Leroux, similar file to Luke Schenn. Again, I don't know why it's not popping up, but 27 hits in his last 8 games, and he's got 4 assists and a power play point, which is a little bit surprising. So between all of these D in Nashville, you've got Schenn, you've got Lausanne, who's on injured reserve, and then you've got Zach Leroux. These are huge hitters, and you can find them all really affordably on the waiver wire. Leroux at 1%. You've got Luke Schenn at 10%. Trenin is a former Nashville, but now on Minnesota player. He's at 0%. So a bunch of hits options for you this week if that's what you're looking for. There's Luke Schenn, 17 hits last 3 games, 11 hit game is crazy. That's going to do it for our look at the schedule ads. Now let's take a look at the goalie hub to find some goaltenders, and you're going to want some guys who are backing up goaltenders who are playing at the Four Nations. So we'll get into that as we turn to the goalie hub. One of the first guys we got to talk about is Kevin Lankinen. Thatcher Demko now listed as week to week. This was always the worry about him when you drafted him late in your drafts. You get excellent value if he's healthy, but if he's not healthy, you lose a starting goaltender that you probably needed. So now if you have the option, Kevin Lankinen is available in shallow leagues. He's 57% owned. He's got pretty decent stats over the last couple of weeks. 3 wins in his last 4, 1.75 goals against, 929 save percentage. And he was really good last time Demko was hurt. he basically took over that number one role. And in the Four Nations tournament, he kind of took over the number one role there for UC Saros, though he did get pulled in that final game. Neither goaltender fared all that well with all the injuries that they had, but Kevin Lankinen has been really good for Vancouver all year, very consistent around this mid to high 70s range. He's gone above it, he's gone below it, but he kind of always finds equilibrium right around here. So if you need a starting goalie and he is available on your wire, I would definitely recommend going out and grabbing him. A couple of other guys that we could talk about as we move forward here. Sam Ersson is another starter that you can find access to, 24% ownership. He's been trending up basically since the new year here. Over the last couple of weeks, 2 wins in his last 5, 917 save percentage, 2.6 goals against. He was at the Four Nations. He didn't play a ton, but he did get a game in there, and he played really well against Team USA on Monday. So for whatever that's worth, he did get some exposure to playing against those excellent players, but he's not worn out from playing all those games like Binnington might be and like Connor Hellebuck might be. So with all that, 24% ownership, you could do a lot worse. And he is a starter for a team that's looking for a playoff spot. And they do have a couple of games this week against Pittsburgh that are going to be up for grabs. They're going to need to win those. Ersson could be your guy if you're looking for a starter. You do have David Riddick. He's going to get a little bit of time. I did see Darcy Kemper was day-to-day. I don't know how he's going to fare. But Riddick, whenever he's in, is relatively good. 920 save percentage, 1 win in his last 3. Nothing crazy there, but did want to mention him really quickly. Marc-Andre Fleury, because Gustafsson did play a little bit more in that tournament, you might want to think about Marc-Andre Fleury, 19% ownership. He could potentially get the Saturday game that they have against Detroit. He could potentially also go one of the 2 games on the back-to-back Thursday-Friday against Utah and Colorado. So this could be a 2-game week for Fleury, and he's been relatively good all season long when he's in. 915 save percentage, 1 shutout in his last 3 games. So whenever he gets in, he usually has a pretty decent performance, and that team defense is really decent at 69th percentile. So that's the main reason to grab him. Also worth noting, Eric Comrie could get 2 games this week as well, with Hellebuck playing all of those Four Nations games, and their team defense is excellent at 81st percentile, 912 save percentage on the year, 961 in his last 2 starts, 2 wins in those starts with a shutout. So he's been really good lately, and they're going to lean on him probably for 2 games this week to give Hellebuck a little bit of a rest. They were coming off an 8-game win streak, so they could potentially afford to risk some points on the board right now, which some other teams can't really afford to do. Speaking of one of those teams, Elvis Merzlikins, you do have the ability to grab him at 36% ownership, and he gets a ton of save volume. So 88th percentile there, just shy of 1,000 saves on the season. He will definitely hit that. 2 wins in his last 6 isn't great. 906 save percentage is pretty good. And the key here is that Columbus is getting healthier. Boone Jenner should be back any day now. If not, he's already back. Marchenko was practicing with the face shield on. He should be back. Monahan could be back any day now, and they could get Gabranson back around mid-March. So they're getting healthy towards the playoff push. This could be excellent news if you're a Merzlikins owner. Again, 36% owned, so he may or may not be there for you in a 12-team league, but if he is, this could be a longer-term play if you're looking for a starter heading into the playoff push. Another guy I wanted to get to, Nedeljkovic. He's yet another starter that you can find, 23% ownership, and you can look at his file going up huge right over here. So this is towards the end of January. He took that role and ran with it. They played excellent defensively right before the break. I remember they played the Rangers, shut them down in a must-win game for the Rangers, which was really impressive to watch. Without Sidney Crosby, without Malkin, they came in to Madison Square Garden and played tight defensive hockey. 3 wins in his last 5, 1.6 goals against, 937 save percentage, and a shutout. So he's been really good basically since taking that starter's role. Jari, I don't know if they're going to call him back up at any point in the future, so I think his position is safe as the starter. So he's a guy that you could potentially look to for a longer sample size to potentially get you into the playoffs if that's what you're looking for. The last guy I wanted to touch on, I do have to look for because I don't see him off the top of this list, is Jake Allen. So I did see a little bit about Markstrom was practicing, but he didn't have a full practice. So I'm not sure what that means for his availability heading into the weekend. So you will probably still see Jake Allen some point this week. I'll just search his name because I can't seem to find it right off the bat here. But we'll pull up Allen's file. He's been kind of hit or miss. Whenever I've picked him up, he's sucked. But whenever I don't have him, he's been great. So goals saved above expected, 96th percentile. That's excellent. 929 save percentage with 2 shutouts in his last 6 games, 3 wins in that span. So he seems to be playing pretty well now that I don't own him, which is great news for you if you want to go out and pick him up. He's at 37% ownership. That will probably tick back down, and he will be less relevant once Markstrom comes back. But at least for that front-loaded back-to-back that they might have, he would be an option for you if you're looking for somebody on a really good offensive team. And they're actually pretty decent defensively as well, around 60th percentile. But that's going to do it for the goaltending section. That's going to do it for the video. Let me know who you've got your eye on and what kind of plays you're making for this week heading out of the break, because we all need to focus up as we make that push for playoffs. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.